Hello, Chameleon Wranglers. Today I'm going to be giving you 5 things I wish I knew when I was starting with chameleons, and then one bonus thing to help your experience be better. This is the second video in a 4-part series talking about your chameleon journey. The first stage, learn. This is where you're focused on the chameleon and just getting it right. The second stage is understand. Here you're focused on yourself and your own personal growth so you can deepen your perspective on chameleon husbandry. And the third stage is pass it on. This is where you turn your focus to the community and you think about how to give back. All of these stages are important, but today we're going to be focusing on that first stage, learn. And I'm going to be sharing 5 secrets for your success as a beginner. Now, it's a beautiful day out, so I think we're going to take this to the park.
So the number one mistake that beginners can make is bringing the chameleon home before they have the cage set up. And so of the list of things that I'd like to tell Bill of decades before to do is set the stage before you invite the star home. And what I mean by that is set up the cage first. The reason why is because we're setting up a complicated environment and there's a lot of things going on. And there are a number of things that you don't figure out until you have it all set up. And then you say, wait a minute, why is the wall behind my cage getting wet? Why is there water dripping on the furniture? So yeah, those kind of things come up once you set up your cage. The first one and biggest one has to do with hydration. You need to get water into this chameleon cage, and we do it with misters and foggers. A lot of people start off with the screen cage, and they find that when the mister goes off, that mist goes through the screen cage and hits the wall behind the cage. Now, this does not make you popular with your spouse. And then all of that mist and fog has to go somewhere, and it goes down to the bottom of the cage eventually. Now, what's at the bottom of the cage that catches all of that moisture? If it's your dresser, well, that's not going to work. And the next big thing is once you get your cage set up, you're thinking, wait a minute, how do I mount my branches and my plants up where the chameleon's going to be using them? You see, this is another thing that you don't want to have to be solving while your chameleon is sitting there in a box. When your chameleon comes home, you want them to go directly into a fully functional cage. Now, of course, you're saying, well, that makes sense, but why don't people do that? Well, what usually happens is people say, I want a chameleon. They go shopping for a chameleon. They fall in love with a chameleon and they say, okay, I got to buy it before somebody else gets it. Or they're just walking through a show and they weren't planning on getting a chameleon, but then they fall in love with one. It's very easy to do, and they snag it. Unfortunately, what happens then is they start panic buying, and they're not purchasing equipment based on what's the right equipment. They're purchasing equipment on what's available right now. So planning ahead of time pays dividends.
Now, as we're talking about what you need for your cage, you might be wondering if somebody put it all together already. And the answer is yes. I started the Strand Chameleon Caging Company specifically to give chameleon keepers what they needed. And yes, this is what passes for a commercial on this video because the Strand Chameleon Caging Company is what supports me being able to do these videos. So with Strand, you get great chameleon cages and I get to do chameleon videos for you, so it's kind of a win-win. But yes, to design these cages, I made a list of what chameleon keepers need and I put it all into a package. Let's go through that list. First was hydration. You've got to get the water elements into the cage, and with that, I've included in this cage, you've got these hydration mounts that accept the standard 1/2-inch stems like you see with Miss Kings. And then there's the fogger input that accepts both the accordion style tube input and the Exoterra tube input. Next, the water's got to go somewhere, right? Well, that's why all of my cages have a drainage tray coming standard with the cage, and the cage just sits on top of the drainage tray. Inside the cage, you also get 2 floor panels. One is the solid panel and one is a screen panel. You decide what fits best with your design. Now, what about that overspray problem where the mister can spray that mist out the back side of the cage and hit your wall and furniture? Well, I have both hybrid and screen cages, but both of them have a solid PVC back. Even the screen cage has that solid PVC back, and that's to protect the walls of your house. And no, don't worry, it's not going to affect the overall ventilation of your cage. And finally, how about mounting branches in pots where the chameleon can use them? For that, I invented these dragon ledges that come standard on all the cages. By using the dragon ledges, you can create the floating garden style that keeps the plants and the branches where the chameleon needs them. All of these things come standard with the Dragon Strand cages, so they're there in the box when you get it. Now, this channel is not a Dragon Strand channel. It's for chameleon husbandry, and so you're going to see a lot of videos on how to retrofit the Reptibreeze or Exoterra cages. But I want to let you know, if you want it all in one box and making it easy, that's what the Dragon Strand cages are for. The link to Dragon Strand is below if you're in the market for a cage. Now, let's go back to that guy in the park.
By setting up your chameleon cage ahead of time, you can get all the timers working, you can figure out the temperature and the humidity and make sure everything is perfect and ready for your little guy to go straight in to their sanctuary. The next thing I'm going to recommend is that you find a vet before you need one. The minute you decide that you want a chameleon, that's the time to start looking for an exotic vet. You can look for them online. I'll have a link in the show notes that has a directory for them. And you can go online to any of your social media groups and see if there's anyone in your area that can recommend a good chameleon vet. And you want to do it now, because the absolute worst time to be looking for a chameleon vet is when your chameleon is sick. The unfortunate fact is that there aren't a whole lot of chameleon experienced vets around, and it may take a while for you to find one. Exotic vets are rare, and chameleon experienced vets are even rarer. Once you find one, put their number on your refrigerator where you can find it, or somebody in your household can find it in an emergency. And once your chameleon comes in, I recommend you take your chameleon in for a wellness visit. With chameleons, so often we determine a problem based on the difference between how they are now and how they were when they were healthy. And so if you bring your chameleon to the vet, you're going to be giving the vet a baseline of what your chameleon is when it's healthy. And bring in a fecal sample to do a check for parasites. I know, you get a captive hatched, it shouldn't have parasites. I hate to surprise you, but a lot of times the captive hatched chameleons do have parasites. Now, it may not be affecting the health of your chameleon, because chameleons are designed to live with a low parasite load. But if your chameleon does have parasites, go ahead and get rid of them. You'll learn later on that parasites are not something we just get rid of once and they're gone forever. It's something we've got to manage through the years. So if your chameleon does have parasites, don't panic. Just get them taken care of. And the way you do that is by doing a wellness visit with your vet. You actually want to do it before there's any sign of sickness, because by that time it's progressed. So get it done while your chameleon is acting healthy. Don't wait until it's too late. Know who your vet is before your chameleon needs one. Next, choose Captive Bred. Oh, if you've been watching the Chameleon Academy videos or listening to the Chameleon Academy podcast, you hear this all the time. Go Captive Bred. You can carve that on stone and put it in the yard of every chameleon keeper. Captive bred babies are born around humans. All they know about humans is that humans bring them food. So they may not be excited about humans, they may not like humans, but they're not scared of humans. At least not as much as a wild-caught would. A captive hatch knows what a cage is. They know that the cage is safety, not confinement. And if you're getting a juvenile, you're going to be able to have your chameleon grow up with you. Leave the wild-caught chameleons to the breeders who need those bloodlines. The breeders know what they're doing. They know how to acclimate. They know how to deal with wild-caught diseases and parasites and damages. And they're not going to be trying to make this wild-caught animal a pet. They're going to give that wild-caught chameleon the space it needs to live a great life with lots of food and some breeding along the side. Now, that sounds wonderful, and people say, yeah, okay, that sounds okay. I can go along with that. Until they go to a reptile show and they see these adult wild-caught chameleons in all of their size and glory of their colors and their horns, and it's hard to resist bringing one home. Oh, that looks healthy. So there's a big danger when you go to a show and you start window shopping. You see these big, bright wild-caught chameleons, and the captive hatched chameleons are this little brown thing. Well, that little brown thing is going to grow into some amazing colors. You just have to be patient. So resist the whole wild-caught thing. If it's wild-caught, don't go for it. Go for a well-started captive hatched juvenile from a reputable breeder. Next, buy quality. Purchasing quality equipment and that quality captive hatched chameleon will save you many headaches later. Chameleons are not a budget pet. And I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm just being realistic. And I want to save you the frustration of what happens when you cut corners. It's not simple taking a chunk of the tree and putting it into our living room. But in chameleon keeping, cutting corners to be cheap often results in a sick animal. And so your chameleon pays for it, and you're going to be paying for it in vet bills. Get the right hydration systems, get the right lighting, get a good sized cage, and definitely get those. I know they're more expensive, but get those captive hatched babies. They're more expensive, they take more patience to grow up, but the experience is 10 times more times better than what the cheaper ones would be. And next, don't climb this mountain alone. When you're starting with chameleons, it's like a fire hose of information. I know, and I spend most of my life trying to figure out how to make that easier. But there's still a lot of information that's got to come to you because we humans don't naturally know how to take care of an arboreal lizard. That's why your fifth key to success is finding a community. Whether it's a reputable forum, a breeder who is your mentor, or you come to the Chameleon Academy live sessions, being connected to an experienced community is a safety net for you. You may run into something that's not in the care guide. That's where having a community shines. And there's a number of places that you can find this community. The first is actually the breeder of your chameleon. If you've selected a reputable breeder, then that breeder is going to be hand-holding you through this entire process. That breeder wants you to be successful. And so you have a built-in mentor. If you're on Facebook, you've got the Chameleon Enthusiast Facebook group. If you don't like social media, there's the chameleonforums.com. And if you love what you're seeing here, I do 2 live sessions a week that you can just come to and ask whatever questions you want and get answers live. I do it on my other channel. I have 2 Chameleon Academy channels. There's this one that's a video channel, and then I have the Chameleon Academy Live, which is a live channel. And I do 2 live sessions a week. Not only do I answer questions, but in the chat, you're able to meet a community of people that can help you, and they're going to be your new friends. Not only is community important when you start with chameleons, it's fun. You got started with chameleons because you were excited about this lizard. And if you get involved with the chameleon community, you're plopped down in the middle of a bunch of people who agree with you. Of course, I'm there with those live sessions. I can tell you it's a lot of fun. And if you're interested in the live sessions, links down below. Now let's go to one bonus tip for husbandry. If you are able to get a Solar Meter 6.5 UVB meter, do it. UVB light exposure is one of our chameleon husbandry parameters that is very difficult because we can't see UVB, but we need it to be at a certain level. If you go to my care guide, you see I got this complicated way that you take this particular UVB and then you mount it this far away from the basking branch, and as long as it's going through this particular screen, and it's complicated. And you have to do that if you don't have a solar meter. Life gets so much easier once you get a solar meter and you can measure your UVB levels. That way you don't have to calculate anything. And you can tell if your light bulb has UVB. Every now and then we get some of these light bulbs and they're not giving off UVB, even new out of the box. And how do you know? Well, you don't unless you have a Solar Meter 6.5. Now, the reason why many people don't get it is because it is expensive. It's a serious scientific instrument. It's between $225, $250. So I understand it's an investment, but if you are able to get one of those, your beginning chameleon experience is going to be so much better.
And so those are the 5 secrets to success and one piece of bonus advice. Now, I do want to say I acknowledge that there is a lot here, not only in this video, but in the entirety of you trying to figure out chameleon husbandry. It's like a fire hose. And you just want to make sure that your little chameleon gets the best care possible. And so you're asking, what's the right information? Well, you have an advantage. You're here, you're watching this video, you have found the Chameleon Academy. That's what we do here at the Chameleon Academy. I want to say that if you're feeling overwhelmed, that's why we have all of these videos here. That's why I do 2 live sessions a week where you can join and ask questions. And something that I didn't mention before is the Chameleon Academy has a private virtual campus. It's a membership group. And so if you're looking for a community, but social media is a little bit too noisy or dramatic, then you can join the Chameleon Academy virtual campus. I'm there with a number of very experienced people who can handhold you through every step of the way. Success at the beginning stages is a combination of preparation, smart choices, and community support. And if you focus on these foundations, you'll avoid the common pitfalls. And remember, once you've figured out how to take care of your chameleon, the journey doesn't stop there. In the next episode, we're going to go over to the next stage, which is understand. This is where you're comfortable with your husbandry and you're looking to see what else is out there and to deepen your perspective of the husbandry you're doing. And so come back then and we'll talk about the next stage in your growth. If you're interested in Dragon Strand or the virtual campus, the links are below. My name is Bill Strand. This is the Chameleon Academy. Take care of yourself, be excellent to each other, and I'll see you next time.